everything. So I think that's one thing that might make this, you know, a pretty unique matchup in the sense that, yeah, they have a bunch of the same Pokemon in terms of the core of Togekiss, Tyranitar, Excadrill, and Arcanine. But for me, the first thing I'm looking at is, okay, how is James going to play with this Rotom and how is Raghav going to deal with it? I also have to wonder how these Excadrills match up against each other. You know, we've seen Raghav run Swords Dance, and we've seen games where he kind of just sets up that Swords Dance turn 1 and then tries to sweep through with it. So here's James actually just going with Excadrill and Togekiss himself, though, to kick things off.
Yeah, classic leads, Togekiss and Excadrill. So classic. Another Togekiss and Excadrill. This tournament has been blessed by the Togekiss and Excadrill leads.
Yeah, so, you know, this is going to have a lot of interesting, you know, potential outcomes. Yeah, because we have to wonder, okay, is there a Babiri Berry on either Togekiss? How are these Excadrills trained in terms of speed relative to each other? And in positions like this, you always have to be careful about just going for a Max Quake turn 1 after Dynamaxing because, of course, Togekiss can Rage Powder. So a relatively safe play is for both Excadrills to Dynamax and maybe just go for a Max Steel Spike.
All right, well, that's going to be our first Dynamax Excadrill on the field. Should be able to go for a Steel Spike safely. That's Raghav's Dynamaxing first. Should James decide to Dynamax as well, that might give those players a little bit of information. James does go for the Dynamax himself, trying to match the offensive pressure of Raghav's Dynamaxed Excadrill with his own Dynamaxed Excadrill. But of course, going second there indicates that James's Excadrill may be trained slower.
Yeah, so let's see if there is a Babiri Berry on either Togekiss. And that's one way, that's a helping hand coming out immediately from the Togekiss. And
well, no follow me's. Helping hand, though, from James's Togekiss onto the Dynamax Excadrill. Raghav doesn't need the helping hand to pick up that KO. No Babiri Berry. Gets the defense boost on both the Togekiss and Excadrill, while James's Togekiss falls to that Steel Spike. And it looks like James also going to go for the Max Steel Spike, but this time Raghav revealing the Babiri Berry on his Togekiss. We know that Raghav was able to pick up the KO without a Babiri Berry on James's Togekiss, but that Babiri Berry, even with the helping hand, James not able to get the KO.
Yeah, so Raghav's Excadrill Dynamaxing first and gets the yawn off. I think that's honestly like the perfect turn you could ask for if you're on Raghav's end. Not only do you survive, but you get that defense boost and you get a yawn off against a Dynamax Pokemon. One of the reasons why yawn has been such a great move in this format is because if you're able to use it against a Dynamax Pokemon, well, they either fall asleep and then effectively waste the last turn of Dynamax, which will happen here, or they're forced to switch out and
waste the last turn of Dynamax.
Exactly. So getting it on the first turn is just so huge. A great play by Raghav there. And like you mentioned, the fact that his Excadrills move first might indicate that it's not a speed tie. It's the third time it's moving first here.
Yeah, Excadrill just continuing to fire off these Dynamax attacks. Deals good damage to the enemy Excadrill, starts to get some special defense boosts, which will be helpful against the Rotom Wash that has now switched out on James's field to fill in for the Togekiss. James also going to match with a Max Quake onto Excadrill, deals some good damage there while Togekiss is protecting itself on Raghav's side. More special defense boosts on James' side because of the Max Quake. Both the Rotom and Excadrill enjoying that. Hydro Pump connects and picks up the KO onto the big Excadrill from Raghav. So James will get to have some extra Dynamax here. Picks up the KO on Excadrill, while Raghav has only picked up the KO on the support Pokemon. Like you mentioned, yawn means it's going to take a little nap in the middle of the battle.
Yeah, that was an excellent play by James. You know, obviously quite risky because Togekiss there does right with Follow Me, but there's the Gourgeist. You know, that is the answer against Rotom Wash, so here it is. Coming out immediately, Raghav choosing not to go for Follow Me, and James makes a very aggressive read, and it pays off perfectly, getting the double target and knocking out the Excadrill. So, you know, Excadrill now has to take a guaranteed turn of sleep. After Dynamax will certainly fall to any attack. And Rotom can't really do very much against Gourgeist, but in this position might want to go for a Nasty Plot. Not sure if we've seen, you know, whether it's running like the Dark Pulse that all these other Nasty Plot Rotoms are going for, but I think Tyranitar an excellent switch in for Raghav. And now the big question is, will Excadrill be able to get an attack off after it takes his first turn of sleep?
All right, well, there is the forced sleep turn from the Dynamax Excadrill. Thunderbolt into the Tyranitar on the switch in, thanks to that Sand, not taking any damage at all, while Gourgeist actually going to be able to set up the Trick Room here. Twist the dimensions, make the slower Pokemon go first. So even though Sand Rush is active for James, that's actually a very bad thing.
Yeah, great game planning here by Raghav by bringing in the Gourgeist. Now, you take advantage of the fact that originally the fastest Pokemon you had, of course, was that Excadrill. It was able to get all these attacks off, and now once again you have the speed advantage. And even if Excadrill wakes up here, it's gonna have to survive the turn. And I mean, a Seed Bomb and a Rock Slide might just pick up the knockout there. So we'll see if Raghav decides to go for the Seed Bomb into that slot.
Okay, Rotom showing Protect, protects itself from the Seed Bomb. Starting to run out of options to deal with that Gourgeist if it's showing Protect there.
Ooh,
Crunch
gets
picks
the
up the KO though.
Yeah, so safer to just not risk even going for a Rock Slide. Might as well just guarantee the knockout there. I wasn't sure how much damage Crunch was going to do to the Excadrill. Excadrill being slower indicates that normally, you have a little bit more bulk somewhere. So it's a great turn for Raghav because whatever comes in now, it's going to be that Dragapult, and this is pretty much a disaster for James. You can very safely go for Seed Bomb and Crunch, and Dragapult is so fast that under Trick Room, it's not going to really be able to do anything. So I think we should see Raghav take this first game in really, really smart game plan, I think. Starting off with Excadrill, getting a lot of damage off, but also bringing the Gourgeist Tyranitar to deal with the potential Rotom Wash.
Okay, well, James has to protect the Dragapult here, knowing that a Crunch would absolutely pick up that KO, but that just means Gourgeist gets to fire off a Seed Bomb against that Rotom Wash. Deals a lot of damage, doesn't quite pick up the KO, just going to activate that Citrus Berry here. Heal back up a little bit. The double target from the Tyranitar, no, into the Protect of Dragapult, so Rotom will have an opportunity to fire off a Hydro Pump here. But again, Tyranitar is very specially bulky. It's in the sand, takes that like a champ. And just, you know what? Weakness policy to boot.
I think, James recognizes that he is not in a great position, but might as well scout out for some more information, confirming that there is weakness policy on Tyranitar is actually a really, really big deal, especially in the dynamic of this matchup when you've got Togekiss, which might click something like Dazzling Gleam onto that slot. So given that Raghav's been able to set up Trick Room and there's still multiple turns left, I think it'll be really difficult for James to win this one because Raghav can just play it super safe, go for another Seed Bomb and a Crunch. And I guess what James is hoping for is maybe get a double Protect off here with the Dragapult, KO the Tyranitar. But I think a Seed Bomb plus sand damage might just knock out the Rotom. Doesn't even opt for the double Protect here, so we should just see the game end.
Yeah, I don't think a double Protect would have been enough. Maybe it needed a triple Protect to stall out that Trick Room entirely. Doesn't go for it, just gives up the Rotom to the Seed Bomb and gives up the Dragapult to the Crunch. And Raghav making a statement here. Really well played first game, taking that in pretty dominant fashion.
I think he came with a very good game plan, and it executed near perfectly. I mean, I think it's really important to know that Raghav's Excadrill has been consistently moving before James's. So James is going to have to really go back to the drawing board because, just that first max move can make such a big difference where you get that defense boost or that special defense boost through Max Quake or Max Steel Spike. So, now James knows, okay, there is also the Babiri Berry on the Togekiss, and your Excadrill is faster, and you have Yawn on Togekiss. I mean, like, that turn one was pretty much perfect for Raghav. Exactly. Like, everything that you don't want to see, pretty much James saw from Raghav's end. So you have to go back to the drawing board a little bit. That's kind of the reason why I was thinking Rotom Wash might be a little bit better to prioritize earlier on, especially because it's not the Mold Breaker Excadrill, so you're not threatened as much. I think what James might be worried about is potentially Excadrill getting a Sword Stance off and then just doing a lot of damage, but I still feel like Rotom has a really good offensive matchup against everything, whereas we saw that the Excadrill from James's end just doesn't really do that much damage. Seems to be consistently slower than Raghav's Excadrill, and it doesn't have something like a Life Orb to really boost its damage output. So I really like Raghav's game plan then. I really like the Trick Room mode to really close out the game, because if you look at James's team, it's actually really fast across the board, or it's kind of in that mid-tier speed. Something like Gourgeist will be able to, just consistently underspeed everything, so outspeed it under Trick Room, and the Tyranitar looked relatively slow as well. So I think James has to go back to the drawing board. First of all, think about how to lead against what Raghav brought in that last game, because there didn't really look like there was great counterplay to Togekiss Excadrill, but that's why I think like Rotom can at least provide a little bit of utility. James also might want to consider not Dynamaxing on the first turn to scout out for who the Yawn goes into, because one of the main things is that Yawn, if you Yawn a Dynamax Pokemon on turn 1, as we were talking about, just makes it so much less effective. And I think, Dragapult in the back there for James pretty much did absolutely nothing. So if you want to bring Dragapult, maybe you want to consider leading it. But something like Arcanine could provide a little bit more utility, where you can get some Intimidates off against the physical type attackers in Tyranitar and Excadrill.
So he has options, is what you're saying.
Yes, yeah. He has options, but I think what makes it scary for James is the Trick Room component on Raghav's team, because it's like, okay, well, even if you get the knockouts that you need earlier on, especially against that Excadrill, Raghav can just set up Trick Room, and if you don't, then as we can see, Excadrill can just kind of sweep through James's entire team.
Yeah, the moment that Gourgeist was able to get a Trick Room up, probably was the end of the game for James. Just wasn't able to make anything happen.
There's Rotom.
As you called it, Rotom Wash as the lead against Togekiss Gourgeist, though. Raghav is a step ahead. predicting the adjustment from James, going to go ahead and bring out his Gourgeist and Togekiss to match up against the Rotom and Togekiss.
I think one thing that's really impressed me with Raghav's play throughout the course of this tournament is it feels like he always knows exactly how his opponents are going to adjust. Despite winning that first game convincingly, does not go with the same lead, recognizes, okay, if I just bring Excadrill, he's got a great counter to that in Rotom. So Gourgeist is the one Pokemon on Raghav's team that really, really counters the opposing Rotom. Now, we've seen that Raghav has a pretty support-oriented Togekiss, so you can go for a Follow Me, might choose to Yawn as well, and Gourgeist could just be content to set up a Trick Room here. But definitely a bunch of options. One thing that I thought James might have considered was going for a Dynamax Turn 1 on Togekiss just to start putting on offensive pressure, but I think the reason you don't want to do that is you don't want to just knock out Togekiss should it Follow Me and give Raghav a free switch into the Tyranitar.
Okay, well, James has decided to go ahead and start boosting the Rotom Wash with that nasty plot. Togekiss's Yawn, though, connects with the Rotom, so it's not quite a Dynamax, but basically the same principle here. Rotom Wash spent the turn setting up, now has to make a decision. Do I stay in and do the one extra attack that's nasty plot boosted, or do I switch out to try to preserve, or to get rid of the sleep and hope that Arcanine can make something happen? But you know what? Raghav just got Trick Room up too.
Yeah, but you know, right now Raghav's in a more passive position, especially after that Intimidate onto the Gourgeist. Seed Bomb doesn't do that much damage to Rotom Wash, and Raghav's in an awkward position, but wow, James actually just decides to switch, says I don't want to get put to sleep, brings the Togekiss back out. We'll have to see if Arcanine maybe lands a Will-O-Wisp onto something or whether it just goes for a Fire-type attack into the Gourgeist, which is going to dodge anything with the Phantom Force.
Yeah, Phantom Force means that if James did target that Gourgeist, he's going to be very disappointed. Dazzling Gleam just dealing a little bit of damage on both the Togekiss and Arcanine. James did go for the Will-O-Wisp onto Togekiss, so not getting baited by the Phantom Force. Gets the Will-O-Wisp burn, will take some chip damage on the Togekiss over the next rest of the game. Another turn of Trick Room down. Gourgeist, of course, Phantom Force is really useful for dodging damage, but it doesn't deal damage very quickly.
Yeah, I like that play a lot from both ends. If you know, Raghav gets careless, switches the Tyranitar in, and as another Yawn comes out after the Phantom Force, then you're able to burn it. But Raghav plays it smart, does not switch out the Togekiss, and we're just seeing kind of like more passive damage being traded off across the board right now. But there's a critical hit onto the Togekiss, and more importantly, Arcanine will be able to get an attack up. But trying to predict the Tyranitar switch in once again.
Yeah, hoping to catch a switch in there, but Raghav just sticking around with Togekiss means that that turn is wasted. But only 2 more turns of Trick Room left. And Togekiss is taking some damage thanks to that critical hit from the Dazzling Gleam. James is still being able to push some damage here.
Yeah, this is kind of the classic, like, oh, I want to switch in my physical type attacker, but I don't want any, you know, any like burns or anything. But I think this is finally the perfect position where to protect the Tyranitar fully, you can just go for a Follow Me with the Togekiss. But I think James has maneuvered around this Trick Room quite well thus far.
Only 1 turn of Trick Room after this. Tyranitar switching in for the Gourgeist, hoping to switch in freely. That Follow Me means that Raghav is not going to be able to deal any damage here, but the Tyranitar does get the free switch in from Burns, unless this Heat Wave makes something happen. Just going to deal a little bit of damage, though, and more damage to the Togekiss as well. Rotom on the switch in does mean that there is a lot of offensive pressure against this Togekiss and Tyranitar once this Trick Room ends.
Yeah, so pretty interesting. We're a couple turns into the game. We still haven't seen a Dynamax, and I think it totally makes sense. I really like how you know, James has been playing this to stall out the Trick Room. I think Raghav has been playing it safe. Didn't want to get punished in by like switching in Tyranitar and just eating up damage or eating up a Will-O-Wisp, but now he only has 1 turn of Trick Room to work with, and I think we're finally going to see some Dynamax come out.
Finally, the big Pokemon start coming out. Raghav and James both trying to make Raghav trying to make the most of this last turn of Trick Room with the Tyranitar. Gonna try and get a lot of damage off. Make sure that it's healthy when it takes a super effective hit so that it can activate its weakness policy and still get a lot done. James just gonna go ahead and protect this last turn on a Rotom, trying to stall out the Trick Room before going on the offensive. And another Follow Me from Togekiss to protect that Tyranitar. Max Knuckle the choice. Raghav's going to use this last turn to boost Tyranitar, but it's not going to pick up the KO onto Arcanine. Gets the attack up onto Tyranitar, but Heat Wave did a lot of damage last time around. May still be able to pick up the KO onto Togekiss here.
Yeah, let's see. After there is sand damage, of course, burn damage as well. It is going to be able to connect onto both Pokemon, so yeah.
Yep.
Togekiss will be going down. And the Max Knuckle there is an interesting decision, but certainly makes sense when you look at James's team. Rock Slide hits for so much damage against everything bar Excadrill. So getting that attack boost means that Rock Slides are just doing so much more damage now. We'll see who Raghav switches into. I imagine Gourgeist is not the best option, but it is going to go into Gourgeist, and now you have to make the prediction, right? Do you just attack with the Tyranitar and eat a potential Will-O-Wisp? I think Raghav could, choose to either Max Guard Tyranitar and set up Trick Room with Gourgeist, or you can just risk it and attack with Tyranitar while also setting up Trick Room. Of course, for James, you could choose to, go for double up into the Gourgeist, or this is actually an opportunity where maybe you consider Dynamaxing the Arcanine, which is what we were talking about earlier, to just guarantee that knockup. But maybe a Heat Wave and a Thunderbolt will be able to pick up the KO. You just have to risk missing Heat Wave, for example. So
yeah, showing the Protect means we don't have the super effective damage on Rotom, most likely on
yes,
the Gourgeist.
Exactly.
Limits the options here.
All right, what's Dynamaxing here? Let's see.
Oh, what could it be? Is it going to happen again a third time?
As it comes out, there it is!
Whoa. Arcanine.
Wow.
The support Arcanine Dynamaxes. They're coming up huge here in Oceania.
Solely to deny the Jerk Room here, pretty much. So if Gourgeist doesn't go for a Protect, which it doesn't, a Max Flare will just come out, and this should just cleanly knock out Gourgeist. So no second Trick Room going up this game.
Ooh, the one Dynamax move that James needed, the Max Flare, picks up the KO onto Gourgeist. Also gets rid of the Sand, which was giving a boost to the Tyranitar. So this Thunderbolt's going to deal a little bit more damage than it would before. Tyranitar just going to reset it, though, with this Max Rockfall onto the Rotom. And that's a clean KO with the attack boost.
Yeah, so you see the value of going for a single Max Knuckle there. And I like the decision.
No Will-O-Wisp option anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So James decided, you know what, I'm not going to risk missing Will-O-Wisp. You're probably not going to protect the Tyranitar, but still, I'd rather just make sure Trick Room doesn't go up. But the thing is, we haven't seen Excadrill come out from either end, and of course we know that Raghav's Excadrill has been consistently moving before James's. So if Excadrill is in the back here, one of the cool things is you're able to change the weather with Max Flare, but Tyranitar can just reset that weather itself with Max Rockfall, which is exactly what it did for. So the James does have an extra turn of Dynamax, but the question is, what is your Arcanine going to be really able to do, especially if Excadrill's coming in here for both players?
Yeah, Excadrill comes in for James.
Oh, wow.
Actually, Arcanine is the last Pokemon for Raghav, so it does get an Intimidate off onto James's Excadrill, which means that Excadrill on James's side is the fastest thing on the field now, and able to threaten big damage on both of these Pokemon.
Yeah, so Raghav actually opting to bring the Arcanine this game instead of Excadrill, maybe wanting more support, especially for that Rotom Wash, which he might have predicted would be a big Pokemon in this matchup. So Arcanine a little bit more passive, and I think James can maybe have more room to work with now with his Arcanine. Still not doing very much damage with Max Flare, but I think a great switch out here just to reset the Intimidate. And as soon as Intimidate was over, I mean, Excadrill has a tremendous matchup against both Tyranitar and Arcanine.
Yeah, absolutely. No. That's right. Arcanine gets Snarl. Just going to drop a Max Darkness onto Arcanine. It's no longer going to drop Special Attack, but instead will drop the Special Defense on both Tyranitar and the Arcanine. Flamethrower from Raghav going back onto the Togekiss, trying to catch that Excadrill before it switched out. Another Max Rockfall coming from the Tyranitar, catches the Togekiss on the switch. So that's going to be a sacrificial switch in from James just to get the Intimidate reset onto Excadrill. Bring that Pokemon back out again, threatening big damage there. One more turn of Dynamax on the Arcanine, which means that one more turn before it can start doing Will-O-Wisps or anything else to these Pokemon.
Yeah, but James gets the Excadrill cleanly in now, and there's no threat of a, like Tyranitar is no longer Dynamax, and there's no Intimidate anymore, so you reset that Intimidate. And we've seen James's Excadrill runs Earthquake, so you could very easily just go for a Max Guard with your own Arcanine, click Earthquake. We've seen that James's Excadrill has that Focus Sash as well, so there's no way really around it unless you're worried about like extreme speed on the Arcanine. So yeah, there's the Max Guard to kick it off for James's Arcanine.
Yeah, there's the Max Guard. Here comes the Protect from Raghav's Arcanine. It's going to be close to see how much damage this Earthquake can do to Tyranitar. Regardless, it's going to activate that weakness policy here, so whatever Tyranitar gets to do afterwards, if it survives, is going to be a lot of damage. 32 hit points, activates the weakness policy. Is Tyranitar able to fire back big damage on that Excadrill? Just going for the Rock Slide into the Max Guard. Looks like it's going to hit the Excadrill for a little bit of damage, break the Focus Sash there, so One more shot.
Yeah, one more shot there for sure, but I think there's still multiple turns of sand. So, I mean, Raghav's out here is to kind of stall out the sand, maybe get multiple protects off with Arcanine. We see 2 turns of Sandstorm, so if you get 2 more protects, then your Arcanine will be able to outspeed the Excadrill, but otherwise, it's a very safe play of just clicking Earthquake multiple times with Excadrill. So that's why I was kind of surprised to see Arcanine come out from Raghav's end instead of the Excadrill, but I think that was because he was trying to make the adaptation of trying to counter the Rotom Wash a little bit more.
Doesn't get the second protect.
Oh,
James
no.
also doesn't get the second protect.
This Earthquake is going to pick up a triple knockout, which I don't think I've ever seen. So, really, really great game there. I think, you know, James making some adjustments, bringing in the Rotom, but the Rotom didn't even actually really do any damage, but it just put on pressure, and I think we were talking about this, maybe Arcanine could Dynamax before the set, and here it does actually end up Dynamaxing to knock out that Gourgeist, so you can see how flexible James is here with how he plays.
Yeah, really smart play to make sure that you got the KO from the Max Flare by Dynamaxing, preventing Trick Room from going up, and also really well played at the start of that to dance around the Trick Room after it went up at the first moment.
Yeah, so
putting himself in good position to block it going up a second time.
Absolutely. I think for Raghav, you can go back to the drawing board and you can say, okay, well, Tyranitar was really good. I got that max knuckle off and then I was doing so much damage, but the main thing was that I didn't have enough turns of Trick Room to work with. So if Raghav wants to go with the same approach, you can just set up Trick Room and then just try to hard switch into Tyranitar. For example, just maybe after you set up Trick Room turn 1, go for Follow Me, switch Gourgeist into Tyranitar, and then you have multiple turns to work with. What the problem was for Raghav in that last game was Phantom Force effectively bought 2 turns there in Trick Room, and Gourgeist didn't really do any damage in those 2 turns. And, you know, James could very safely make a play on that second turn knowing, okay, your Gourgeist is going to be doing nothing but Phantom Forcing, so Raghav doesn't want to switch that Togekiss out into Tyranitar to get burnt. So I think the Trick Room approach is still good. We saw how good it was in that first game, but you need to use it more effectively. You can't let James dance around you like we saw in that second game.
Yeah, and really big adjustments there coming out from James, making sure that he brought the Rotom Wash early to exert that pressure. Didn't bring the Dragapult this time. Dragapult was doing nothing in this matchup, especially if Raghav is going to show Trick Room mode. So really smart adjustments there from James to allow himself to get to this, to force this game 3. And it's now, this is it.
This is it.
This is game 3 of top 8. One of these players is going to win this game and advance to the top 4, and the other one is going to end their tournament today.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because, like, you know, Raghav, if you wanted to counter, like, Tyranitar Rotom specifically, could just hard lead his own Tyranitar. And, you know, that does so much damage. But then the thing is, then Excadrill can just get a switch and maybe put in a lot of work. And with the threat of Intimidate from James, if he brings the Arcanine, it makes Dynamax Tyranitar a lot weaker. So I really am not sure there's like a super consistent lead here that will work out against everything. And we've already seen a lot of, you know, information and knowledge from both players. But, oh, man, this is like a nerve-wracking situation to be in, especially because you both have the Tyranitar, you both have the Excadrills. You don't necessarily want to set up the sand. And you're going to see a little bit of an adjustment from James here, bringing in Rotom once again, which I like.
All right, but Raghav is going to bring out the Excadrill and Togekiss. Same leads from the first 4 Raghav. James, that Arcanine and Rotom Wash, that's a good lead matchup.
Yeah, excellent adjustment there by swapping out the Togekiss for the Arcanine. Gets that Intimidate off immediately, which is so big against Raghav's Excadrill. But, you know, we've seen Raghav just go for something like Follow Me and Swords Dance here, and if there's an opportunity to go for it, I mean, this seems like a decent time for it. Arcanine's not going to be able to do that much damage, but of course we actually saw that it does have Heat Wave, so
Follow Me is not going to help out.
Exactly, yeah. But James actually going to swap out that Arcanine here, so this is an opportunity for Excadrill to get a big Swords Dance off.
All right, Togekiss swapping in for the Arcanine. James going to keep that Intimidate in the back just in case he needs to continue to drop the attack. Some pretty heavy hitters out on the field now. Tyranitar swaps in. The Sandstream activates, which means that Excadrill will now be able to go first because of the Sand Rush. And just going to go ahead and immediately Dynamax at -1, but still going to go ahead and go big.
I have to wonder, is it a Max Quake into the Arcanine? Let's switch into Togekiss. If so, that's a huge play by James. Regardless, Excadrill won't be able to do that much damage because of the Intimidate unless you call the Togekiss switch in and go for a Max Steel Spike in that slot.
Rotom just going to go ahead and protect as well, so not much damage no matter what happened here. Oh, and that's the Excadrill's Max Quake into the Togekiss that swapped in. That is 1 turn of Dynamax down and a great switch from James.
Yeah, and you can serve the Arcanine as well, so you can bring it back in right now for another Intimidate if you want to. Like, Rotom here has a bunch of options. Obviously, it protected last turn, so you could consider even going for a Nasty Plot, or maybe you just want to Dynamax and just go for an attack immediately. For example, one play you could make is Dynamax and just go for Max Geyser into Excadrill. That also gets rid of the sand. And I could see James maybe cycling in for more Intimidates as well, but maybe not this turn.
All right, Gourgeist coming in now instead of the Tyranitar. Shows the scope lens on Togekiss, which explains all of the crits James has been getting throughout the tournament. Follow Me makes Togekiss the center of attention and makes sure that Excadrill's Max Rockfall is going to target it down. Deals big damage to Togekiss, but because of the Intimidate, able to survive that with 69 hit points. Rotom goes ahead and Nasty Plots on up, getting set up to sweep. Ready for a Dynamax next turn, most likely, as Gourgeist switches in.
So James finally getting the Nasty Plot off with this Rotom, and this time around it's not Yawn. So this is kind of the thing I was expecting to see maybe earlier on in the matches, and now here it is finally. Hasn't really taken much Dynamax, hasn't taken much damage, and more importantly for James, Raghav's Dynamax is going to end after this turn, and you can see the utility of just a single Intimidate against these big Dynamax Pokemon.
Yeah, one Intimidate's good, two Intimidates is better. Arcanine back out on the field, hits both the Gourgeist and the Excadrill, so Gourgeist Seed Bombs aren't going to be dealing that much damage to the Rotom anymore because of the Intimidate and also because of this Dynamax coming in.
Yeah, so Dynamax Rotom here will be able to do a ton of damage. It's not going to get a knockout here, but will be able to start putting on offensive pressure, especially if Excadrill goes for a Max Rockfall. Won't even do that much damage with the double Intimidate. I think Gourgeist here probably is going to be wanting to set up a Trick Room, but even with Trick Room, I mean, now you've got a really, really scary Rotom to stare down. And yeah, here's a Max Rockfall. Let's see how much damage it does.
All right, another Max Rockfall coming out from the Excadrill. Does about 50% of the damage of Arcanine. Good damage, but not enough given the two Intimidates that have hit. That Max Geyser brings Excadrill all the way down to its Focus Sash, removes the weather, and sets the rain for itself instead. Should this Gourgeist go for the Trick Room, that actually ends up helping Raghav here, because now Excadrill is not going to have the speed of that Sand Rush as Gourgeist does twist the dimensions and set the Trick Room.
Yeah, this is now the power of Rotom Wash. Rotom Wash should outspeed the Excadrill here, right? So with Trick Room being up, you can pretty safely go for another Max Geyser into that slot. No way really around that. I mean, you could maybe just switch it out, but that's pretty risky as well because whatever's coming in is
nasty
eating up.
Plot up.
Exactly.
Plot boosted, not great.
And with the Intimidate on the Gourgeist as well, Seed Bomb's really not doing very much damage. I really like how James recognizes, okay, Rotom is my main win condition, so let me pull the switch out into Togekiss to go for future Follow Me's because I know I won't take much damage from something like Seed Bomb.
Yeah, look at how little damage that Seed Bomb ended up doing to Rotom. Another Max Geyser here is just, that's way more damage than that one hit point needed to take here. Looks like that's going to be it for Raghav's Excadrill. Togekiss now on the field alongside the Rotom means that Rotom's a little bit protected from Seed Bombs with Follow Me's, but Tyranitar now back out on the field and under Trick Room may have access to some abilities to take down that Rotom Wash.
Yeah, so this time around, Raghav does get Tyranitar in safely under Trick Room for multiple turns, but he can't Dynamax the Tyranitar. Rotom still has a turn of Dynamax, and James also still has that Arcanine in the back, so you could just swap out and bring in another Intimidate.
Tyranitar is going to try and protect and try to avoid as much damage from this Max Geyser as possible.
Oh, is he going to activate the weakness policy through Protect? Let's see.
That's a Seed Bomb from Gourgeist into the Follow Me. Togekiss deals no damage whatsoever, so still going to have to stick around. Max Geyser.
Whoa, is it going into?
Max Geyser does connect with Tyranitar. The Protect protects Tyranitar from a lot of that damage and gets itself the weakness policy boost. Going to be able to deal some big damage here now with Rock Slide.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. There's still 2 turns of Trick Room, so Rock Slide's going to be doing a ton of damage. James still has all of his Pokemon, and there is still the Arcanine that you can switch into for Intimidate, so it's not over by any means, especially because we've seen this Rotom has Protect. I mean, you could
There's still plenty of opportunities
here
to stall.
Exactly, and there's only 2 turns of Trick Room left, so that's what you're looking for. But activating the weakness policy, I think, gives Raghav at least a little bit more offense now. I think you can very safely click Rock Slide with Tyranitar, and Gourgeist could do a bunch of attacks here, but maybe Seed Bomb is safe. You could also even consider switching out the Gourgeist into your last Pokemon and provide more utility. But I like the play there from both ends. You know, if the Tyranitar doesn't protect there, you have a decent shot of just getting a KO there. And if it does, well, you know, then at least it's not attacking this turn, and there's only 2 turns of Trick Room left.
All right, James will retreat the Togekiss in favor of Arcanine to try and start getting rid of those weakness policy boosts. Intimidate's going to be helpful, but Tyranitar still has a boost from the weakness policy, going to need a little bit more than just the one Intimidate here. Big damage from Gourgeist on Seed Bomb. Of course, taking another Intimidate means the big damage is minimal damage, tiny little Seed Bombs, just enough to activate the Rotom's Citrus Berry and heal itself back up a little bit. And here comes the Rock Slide from Tyranitar. So much damage on the Arcanine, but Rotom cleanly able.
Is there a flinch, though? We just saw Rock Slide and just how good it can be, and Rotom gets the Hydro Pump and it connects. That's so huge. Wow. That should get the knockout onto Tyranitar, and a absolutely game-defining play there by James. Says, I'm not going to protect. I know I can survive the double target with a Seed Bomb and a Rock Slide. Doesn't get flinch, connects the Hydro Pump, and wow, that's just such a big turn, especially if we haven't even seen James's last Pokemon yet.
Yeah, I mean, especially after that second Intimidate, there was just nothing that Raghav could do there that did not have the damage, needed to rely on a flinch, did not get it.
Yeah.
Togekiss back out for James to continue to protect that Rotom. Last turn of Trick Room can just stall this out once more. But Togekiss is fully healthy on Raghav's side. Really might come down to what is going to be that last Pokemon. Yeah,
if you look at what James's last Pokemon could be, though, these are all some of the biggest offensive threats in the Excadrill, Gourgeist, and the Tyranitar. So, yeah, I mean, this is the last turn of Trick Room. Perhaps you'll want to protect the Rotom, stall out the Trick Room, and then you can go for like a super effective Thunderbolt. I mean, maybe Raghav's win condition at this point is getting up another Trick Room and hoping to survive, and their Rotom does go for the Protect.
Yeah, just stalling out this last turn of Trick Room with that Protect. Seed Bomb will actually connect with the Togekiss, probably recognizing that Gourgeist wasn't going to be able to get anything done through that Protect, as Dazzling Gleam from Raghav's Togekiss will be able to pick up the KO on the opposite side. So now we will see what James's last Pokemon is as Trick Room expires here.
Yeah, let's see what it is. Something like, it's going to be that Excadrill, which I think isn't too surprising, but of course we know that Raghav's Togekiss does have that Babiri Berry, and we know that it has Protect. So one play you could actually make here is just go for a Protect on Togekiss instead of Trick Room, so then if James wants to counteract that, you can double up into Gourgeist with a Hydro Pump and Iron Head, and maybe
hope for the flinch.
Yeah, exactly. All right, there's the Protect on Togekiss. He's going for the Trick Room play, I think. Did James call this and double up into Gourgeist?
That's a Protect.
Oh, he's Rock Sliding. Okay.
That's like Iron Head.
It is, yeah.
Connects. Going to deal damage to Gourgeist.
Oh.
Just a little bit of damage.
Hydro Pump. Oh, it misses.
It misses.
And Trick Room goes up.
Trick Room.
Wow. That's so huge.
No flinches. Trick Room up for another full set. Fully healthy Togekiss, still fully healthy Gourgeist. Gourgeist, of course, not dealing a lot of damage, but Rotom's only at 33 hit points. That might just be enough, and all you need is one hit point onto Excadrill to break that Focus Sash.
I think that might be enough for Raghav to win this game, but it's still going to be close. I mean, Gourgeist is intimidated multiple times, but we know that Raghav does have the Babiri Berry on that Togekiss, and a Dazzling Gleam should just knock out the Rotom on the opposing side. So now you have to make the call, you know, do you just go for something like Yawn into, I think one thing you could consider is maybe Yawning Excadrill and Seed Bombing. You still have to do enough damage to this Excadrill, that's the main thing. Rotom is going to go for this first Protect though, yeah.
Okay, Rotom just protecting this turn, trying to avoid Seed Bomb damage from Gourgeist as it does.
And
Togekiss does have the Yawn, like you called, going to put the Excadrill to sleep, not after this turn, but after next turn. Iron Head actually on the Gourgeist, just dealing a little bit of damage right back. No flinch chance, of course, because the Gourgeist has already moved.
I think that's a great play there, though, by Raghav, because now you can just go for the Seed Bomb onto Rotom, protect the Togekiss. Excadrill guaranteed falls asleep, and Rotom actually goes for the double, but doesn't get it.
Doesn't get it. Haven't seen too many double protects this time around. Rotom not getting it at all. Seed Bomb is enough to pick up the KO, even after all of those Intimidates. So just Excadrill, which has this turn to deal damage before falling asleep. Dazzling Gleam just dealing 40 hit points there, so it might take a while to actually deal the damage to Excadrill. as the Iron Head's dealing a little bit more damage, and again, the Excadrill goes to sleep.
Yeah, nice play there, though, predicting that Excadrill might not target Togekiss, expecting and protect, instead just goes for the Dazzling Gleam. And, you know, Gourgeist and Togekiss aren't doing much damage, but you need all the damage it can get. Excadrill's going to take a guaranteed turn to sleep, and the Trick or Treat comes out! I think that's our first time seeing it use that. You know, that's going to take away... you're going to get the Dazzling Gleam off. And so more importantly, it doesn't actually take away the Steel typing, but now Gourgeist will still be able to, I guess you can Phantom Force.
Yeah, it allows Gourgeist to hit for super effective damage on the Phantom Force.
Yeah.
Which, this is again the last turn of Trick Room.
Yep.
It could go Phantom Force here, disappear, not be able to be targeted, and then next turn not be able to be targeted again.
That was
the
so
coolest
sick.
thing.
That was so sick. Just really brilliantly played in this endgame by Raghav. I think, yeah, James kind of needed to go for a flinch. I was kind of surprised to see, I guess, the Rock Slide, but I guess Iron Head and Hydro Pump probably still wasn't knocking out that Gourgeist anyway. I mean, the rain was up and it was +2 Rotom, but it would have been close. Excadrill's going to take that final turn of sleep, and yeah, this should just be a KO this turn. Raghav's going to move on to the top 4.
That's a full sleep for Excadrill, and here comes the Phantom Force after the Trick or Treat. Super effective damage from the Gourgeist. The Gourgeist taking Raghav to the top 4.
That was a phenomenal set. Wow, so well played. And